Om. 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 Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadrisham Tattvamasyadilaksham Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadhi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Satgurum Tam Namami श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादं शङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् प्रातः स्मरामि हृदि संस्फुरदात्मतत्त्वम् सच्चित्सुखं परमहंसगतिं तुरीयम् यत्स्वप्नजागर सुषुप्तमवेति नित्यम् तद्ब्रह्म निष्कलमहं न च भूतसङ्घः We'll start from verse 40, Bila, because we have. Yeah. रूपवर्णादिकं सर्वं विहाय परमार्थवित् परिपूर्णचिदानन्द स्वरूपेणावतिष्ठते ज्ञातृज्ञानज्ञेयभेदः परेणात्मनि विद्यते चिदानन्दैकरूपत्वात् दीप्यते स्वयमेव तत् एवमात्मारणौ ध्यानं मथने सततं कृते उदितावगतिर्ज्वाला सर्वाज्ञानेन्धनं दहेत् अरुणेनैव बोधेन पूर्वं सन्तमसे हृते तत आविर्भवेदात्मा स्वयमेवांशुमानिव आत्मा तु सततं प्राप्तोऽपि अप्राप्तवदविद्यया तन्नाशे प्राप्तविद्भाति स्वकण्ठाभरणं यथा स्थाणौ पुरुषवद्भ्रान्त्या कृता ब्रह्मणि जीवता जीवस्य तात्विके रूपे तस्मिन् दृष्टे निवर्तते तत्त्वस्वरूपानुभवात् उत्पन्नं ज्ञानमञ्जसा अहं ममेति चाज्ञानं बाधते दिग्भ्रमादिवत् सम्यग् विज्ञानवान् योगी स्वात्मन्येवाखिलं जगत् एवं च सर्वमात्मानम् ईक्षते ज्ञानचक्षुषा आत्मैवेदं जगत् सर्वम् आत्मनोऽन्यन्न विद्यते मृदो यद्वद्घटादीनि स्वात्मानं सर्वमीक्षते जीवन् मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान् पूर्वोपाधिगुणान् त्यजेत् सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात् भवद् भवद् भवेद्भ्रमरकीटवत् तीर्त्वा मोहार्णवं हत्वा रागद्वेषादिराक्षसान् योगी शान्तिसमायुक्तः आत्मा रामो विराजते बाह्यनित्यसुखासक्तिं हित्वात्मसुखनिवृत्तः घटस्थदीपस्वस्थः घटस्थदीपवस्वस्थः स्वान्तरेव प्रकाशते उपाधिस्थोऽपि तद् उपाधिस्थोऽपि तद्धं तत्तद् तत्तदम्
धर्मैः धर्म
तद्धर्मै उपाधिस्थोऽपि तद्धर्मैः अलिप्तो अलिप्तो व्योमवन्मुनिः सर्वविन् सर्वविन्मूढवत्तिष्ठेत् असक्तो वायुवच्चरेत् उपाधिविलयाद्विष्णौ निर्विशेषं विशेन्मुनिः जले जलं वियद्व्योम्नि तेजस्तेजसि वा यथा यल्लाभान्नापरो लाभः यत्सुखान्नापरं सुखं यज्ञान्नापरं ज्ञानं तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत् यद्दृष्ट्वा नापरं दृश्यं यद्भूत्वा न पुनर्भवः यज्ञात्वा नापरं ज्ञेयं तद्ब्रह्मेत्यवधारयेत् ओम तत्सत्
Hari Om. I think we did 46, but we can repeat 46, or I go ahead with 47.
Yeah, I think 46 we did in detail yesterday, no?
Yeah, 46 we did.
Yeah, can go to 47.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I'll just read the last paragraph of 46. Similarly, when once the self is known, we shall immediately understand our true relationship with the world of objects around us and our own relationship with our matter envelopments. The sense of I and the concept of mine both become meaningless and delusory when the self is realized as one universal reality, ever the same within and without. The directions are ever there, whether we know them or not. So long as we are confused, we take the East to be the West, and so on. A right understanding gives us the true directions. So, too, when self is known, we are able to fix our relationship in the world on surer footings with a more balanced vision. सम्यक् विज्ञानवान् योगी स्वात्मन्येवाखिलं जगत् एकं च सर्वमात्मानम् ईक्षते ज्ञानचक्षुषा. Samyak, very well. Vijnanavan, a man of realization. Yogi, the yogin. Svatmaneva, in his own self. Akhilam, entire. Jagat, universe. Ekam, one. And Sarva, everything. Atmanam, his own self. Ikshate, sees. Jnana Chakshusha, through his eye of wisdom. This I had read yesterday. I'm repeating once again. Samyak Vijnanavana Yogi Svatmanyeva Akhilam Jagat Ekam Cha Sarvam Atmanam Ikshate Jnana Chakshusha. The yogi of perfect realization and enlightenment sees through his eye of wisdom. Jnana Chakshusha, the entire universe in his own self, and regards everything else as his own self and nothing else. The yogi of full realization of the true self, who has been trained to integrate his mind and see everywhere the oneness of the self, the Mahatman, who has effaced his lower nature and who has learned to live in harmony with the higher in him, and in whose case the mind and intellect are well controlled without their disturbing pull towards the outer world of objects. That Superman sees the entire Jagat as the manifestation of his own self and experiences the self in him to be the self everywhere. He is convinced that there is not a separate life giving factor for the world outside the self in him, or a different illuminator for the different experiences in him. When the eye of wisdom is opened, just as the oneness of gold is realized in all the ornaments, the supreme reality alone is experienced to be the all pervading in him and out of him, here and everywhere. When the ego, which kept him in bondage, the Jivatman, which seemed to be laboring under limitations, is blasted to smithereens with the current of the self knowledge in him, he becomes a man of total and absolute fulfillment. The purpose of his life is achieved. The truth of his experience, the truth of his existence is realized. The reality in him is experienced. I repeat the last paragraph, it is the takeaway. When the ego which kept him in bondage, the Jivatman, which seemed to be laboring under limitations, is blasted to smithereens with the current of the self knowledge in him, he becomes a man of total and absolute fulfillment. The purpose of his life is achieved. The truth of his existence is realized. The reality in him is experienced. So it is about the Jivan Muktas who have realized the self and its manifestation within and without. When once that realization is there, that for him there is nothing more to be known, there is nothing more to be achieved. He is Purnatva Bhavana, completeness. And he knows that the whole Jagat is nothing but the manifestation of his own self, and that is the only illuminator. There is no other. And all the limitations are then no more existing. Aham alpagnaha, aham kinchidagnaha. That is not there. There is absolute fulfillment once the truth is realized. Yeah, kindly share your understanding. And a gentle request, I will be able to do it for another 45 minutes as I'll be going for long kriya. So someone else if can help, it will be appreciated.
I'm there if needed.
Thank you so much, Mrinalji. Let us share about those who are enlightened, whose eye of wisdom, Jnana Chakshusha, he will be able to perceive the whole world as his own. And from theoretical, it becomes the experiential. Shall I proceed? If anyone wants to share, I think I'll proceed. Yeah. आत्मैवेदं जगत् सर्वम् आत्मनोऽन्यन्न विद्यते मृदो यद्वत् घटादीनि स्वात्मानं सर्वमीक्षते. Atma, the Atman, eva, verily, idam, this Jagat, universe, sarvam, entire, Atmanonyata, other than the Atman, na, not, vidyate, exist, mrudah, from clay, yadvata, in that manner, ghatadini, pots, etc., svatmanam, his own self, sarvam, everything, ikshate, sees. Atma eva idam jagat sarvam atmanonyat na vidyate mrudah yadvat ghatadini svatmanam sarvam ikshate. Nothing whatever exists other than the Atman, the tangible universe is verily Atman, as pots and jars are verily made of clay and cannot be said to be anything but clay, so too to the enlightened soul, all that is perceived is the self. I repeat, nothing whatever exists other than the Atman. The tangible universe is verily Atman, as pots and jars are verily made of clay and cannot be said to be anything but clay, so too to the enlightened soul, all that is perceived is the self. The whole world of experiences has previously been stated as nothing but the expressions of one's own self, and that beyond this supreme there is nothing. How are we to accept this proposition that Atman alone is the essence in all the world of our experiences? Atma eva jagat sarvam. Out of mud is made various kinds of pans and potteries. They come out of mud, exist in mud as mud, and finally go back to be deservedly deservedly called the same old mud. Without mud, all the different shapes and forms could not have come out. The original mud alone gave the shape and substantiality to the different existent pot units. Just as there is no separate existence for the mud pans and pots apart from the mud, just as the waves in the ocean are the same as the waters on which they have risen up, so too the self alone is the reality which has given shape and life to the world of names and forms. And this is rightly understood by the man of wisdom, the enlightened soul. The ordinary folk who have no greater purpose in life than to direct their energies towards a hunt for the fleeting pleasures from the world of objects cannot so easily recognize this subtle presence everywhere, the infinite rising from the infinite pervades and envelopes the entire finite. The multiplicity is but a projection upon the one eternal infinite. I repeat the last paragraph. Out of mud is made various kinds of pans and potteries. They come out of mud, exist in mud, as mud, and finally go back to be deservedly called the same old mud. Without mud, all the different shapes and forms could not have come about. The original mud alone gave the shape and substantiality to the different existent pot units. Just as there is no separate existence for the mud pans and pots apart from the mud, just as the waves in the ocean are the same as the waters on which they have risen up, so too the self alone is the reality which has given shape and life to the world of names and forms. And this is rightly understood by the man of wisdom, the enlightened soul. The ordinary folk who have no greater purpose in life than to direct their energies towards a hunt for the fleeting pleasures from the world of objects cannot so easily recognize this subtle presence everywhere, the infinite rising from the infinite pervades and envelopes the entire finite. The multiplicity is but a projection upon the one eternal infinite. It is eternal, I believe. Kindly forgive me if my pronunciation. It is, I think, eternal, infinite. So it is for those enlightened masters, for them, there is only one reality. There is no other, no second. And for the ordinary folk like us who are still attached to the pleasures from the world of objects, for them it requires preparation of the mind through satsang sadhana seva. So as long as that duality persists, we cannot recognize that oneness. Yeah, kindly share your understanding, please.
Yeah, as long as you identify objects, um, for the sense with your senses and the mind, and experiencing that through the ego, then there is no chance of realizing the self or realizing everything else. So once that getting the sense control and the sense and the mind control and having that antakarna shuddhi, letting the ego go, then you have a chance of getting that realizing self. So like once you realize the self, as you know that here the example is like how the mud is used to make multiple parts. So same way the self, um, that you see the all everywhere.
Yeah, very beautiful, Dr. Maya. So as long as the ego exists, there will be separation. And the recognition is only required. It is already there all the time with us.
It's like getting our direction right. Once we know direction slash identification right, in this jagat, we are all moving around like those um, blinded people who do not know which is east, which is west. But once that knowledge of the self dawns, then everything is crystal clear. This is
So
where
till
the
the,
importance of seva comes in. Seva is something that will put you on the path of samatvam. See, how would you treat your own self when you're treating the other person? You're doing it out of that attitude of seva. Then that samatvam slowly seeps in. Otherwise, there is always me and the other. Whereas seva is something that also dissolves the ego. I remember in the very early stage days, we used to stand by schools and distribute flyers. Some people even asked, I mean, we would go even to the malls, the parking lots, and distribute art of living flyers. And then they would say, oh, how come you're doing this? You know, but when you look at it in retrospect, that requires a lot of dissolving of ego to do that. Of course, the sense of purpose to get participants to spread the word is there, but unless that, oh, how can I do such a thing, is dropped, only then will that seva be possible. Small example, but and we can extrapolate it to all the other seva that we do. Of course, seva again can be classified as sattvic, rajasic, and tamasic. And I'm talking of the sattvic seva where you do it out of sheer joy, out of happiness, pure intention to make a difference. Unless anyone else wants to share, do you want to move on, Bela?
Yeah. Very beautiful. The importance of seva and that dissolution of ego. It is so very important, especially when you have nothing to expect from the other side. When you just feel that oneness with everyone around you, then there is no stranger for you. I still remember at the airport also, we used to talk about, first time when we went to the ashram, we were talking to everybody that you must do the course, right? So it is like out of love and joy.
Yeah.
You have no other purpose. You do not expect anything in return. When you are doing that kind of, when that stage comes, then it is very beautiful. Even right now, when I'm trying to um, encourage people studying Sanskrit, when I go to for walking, even strangers, when I meet them, I do not feel shy. I do not shy away. I tell them to come and come to the class. So that fear has gone, that if I tell what she will think about me or he will think. Earlier it was there, but now that fear has gone.
Yeah. It's like in the heart chakra, there are three. One positive and two negative. You have fear, hatred, and love. So when you're functioning from that space of love, there is absolutely no fear. Forget about hatred; that is not there at all. But the fear is also dissolved, and only love stays. That is why they say, Gurudev says, seva is an expression of joy. If it is any other, then it doesn't serve its purpose. If it is for joy, if you're doing it to get a name, fame, then it is no seva at all. It becomes rajasic. But you're doing it out of sheer love, sheer joy. And like you rightly said, without expecting anything in return. It is the biggest random act of kindness.
Yeah. And that experience is beyond words.
It's immediate, no? The joy that you
Yeah,
get.
immediate. Very true.
Immediate. You don't need to wait for something. And again, you're not doing it for that joy. You're just joyfully doing it. It happens, whether you get it or not. That is why in DSN, when you're talking to people, it doesn't matter. You'll have people who react to you, who are completely on the other spectrum, but you still move on and you see, watch yourself, what happens to you, what are the inner emotions that you're going through. You still go on talking to people.
Very true. And that realization has come that it's not for others, it's only for your antakarana shuddhi and for your upliftment.
I feel
Yeah,
it is the whatever. Sorry,
yeah, go ahead, Manana.
and it is out of love for the others, and you want to share your joy with everybody because you have experienced something so beautiful, and you want others to also experience that. And out of that, I think we keep telling about doing others to do the course and whatever. Like
Correct.
if yeah.
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 I'm not sure whether this thing of I'm doing it not so much for the others, but for my sake. I don't, maybe we need to deliberate on that. It is Maybe when you look at karma yoga, you can that aspect comes in where you're doing it for antakarna shuddhi and not for your raga dveshas. Actually, it's all intertwined. When you go out to do seva and you're doing all these things, that you are dropping your raga and dvesha. You're dropping your dvesha for standing in the middle of the road and giving out flyers. Also, you're dropping your raga. Oh, I will do this, I won't do that. I like to do this, I don't like to do that. Seva is being available to do anything at that particular time that you are capable of doing. What is not in your capacity, you're not expected to do. Like, it's only a doctor who can treat. In a medical camp, there are doctors who will look at patients and then treat, but you don't expect volunteers to sit there, and volunteers will do some other work. But I am not sure whether we should have this attitude also inside of us, that we're doing it for ourselves, for the antakarana shuddhi. I mean, that's a given, isn't it? That is a given.
It is the byproduct of what
Yeah.
the seva you are doing. No? So
Right.
it happens automatically. You don't need to ask
Even
for
remind yourself. Correct.
Yeah.
That's what I was wanting to say. Even that thought, oh, I'm doing it for my antakarana shuddhi, then becomes there's a tinge of selfishness there, or so I think. I'm doing it for my sake. It's rather than that, drop all of that. It is by default happening. Antakarana shuddhi is happening by default. You're just doing it out of joy. That's it. Brimming joy. And you see, when you do it from this space, it does make a difference to people. Maybe not everybody you speak to will convert to a participant, but you have sown the seeds and you've sown the right seed, and then it'll take its time. Some people will come immediately, some might take some time, but you have dispassionately done that.
That's so lovely point. I did not realize all the time so far I have been doing with an intention that it is for my growth and development, not for others. When I'm bringing them to the class, it is for my sake, not for them.
Well, it is for your expanded self, yes. Because the other is no other. He's part of you. He'll be a part of one whole creation. To expand that myself, yes. In a way, what you said is right, because Gurudev himself has said all these courses and everything is not so much for, it is for your growth. In a subtle way, what you said is right. But like each of us here are in this session for our sake, isn't it? Because each of us wants to evolve, learn, and be in this knowledge. So ultimately, it is for that one I. There is no other actually. There is only one I. But pinning down to saying, oh, it is for me, even that maybe has to kind of dissolve. Because you're here, yes, for a reason. You're here for yourself. But letting go of even that and understanding by default that cleaning is happening, cleansing is happening.
It's when it comes to the action part, you do it like as a karma yoga, but then when you are looking for this like what do you call that, liberating yourself, then you're all by yourself only. You cannot do it for others. It just you have to do it for yourself. So in that case, you're doing it for yourself. But then if you're doing the action, meaning like bringing in people to the group, or I have taken this course, this helped me, and you're kind of educating them. I hope this helps you also. That is type of an action, but at the same time, you feel that, I mean, there are two sides to it, right? I mean, it's
Correct.
not like, yeah. So
I
one
understand.
way you look at it, you have to go by yourself, but then the other part of it is that you are helping somebody,
Yeah.
but not expecting any other, not attached to that action. That's pretty much it. Not you don't want to attach to that. You're doing
Very
it.
good. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You would be sorry, you would be doing that seva, keeping the uh, other person's happiness, but ultimately it boils down to your happiness because the other person is happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're
Boils down to
doing
you
is,
only, your gain,
yeah,
but your goal or your intention cannot be your happiness. It is you will get happiness ultimately, but the intention to make somebody else happy will, as Savita ji said, it's a byproduct that you will also be happy in the process. Because
You
any
are
action
already
you would
happy.
do
That's
to
why you are doing
any
the seva.
action, yeah,
Actually.
any action you would do to get some satisfaction, some happiness, because every action is out of that wanting to be happy. But when we are doing some action, I think the other person comes first to serve him or to make him happy, to give him so that he is happy. But ultimately, like when we serve our children or somebody, uh, we do it for your, when verbally we might be saying, I'm doing it for you. But what is it doing? It is giving me the satisfaction, right? After doing. But that is not the intention I would do or serve somebody.
Well,
Yeah,
karma
got it. Vinay.
is where
Hmm.
you're already happy. You don't need to do something to get happy. You're doing it because it's your nature to do.
Very beautiful, yeah. And it happens, it's happening. It is not, there is no doership that because I'm making an effort to do. It is happening. Mhm.
Maybe when that
Yeah.
thought even comes up, oh, I'm doing this for Antakarna Shuddhi, just be aware of that. And then that will also kind of drop. You're doing it
Hmm.
because this is what the Shastra says, this is what the mission says, this is what you are, um, this is your
Yeah.
seva. So you go on.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. जीवन मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वात् no जीवन मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान् पूर्वोपाधिगुणांस्त्यजेत् सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात् भवेद्भ्रमरकीटवत्. Kindly correct me if my जीवन मुक्तस्तु तद्विद्वान्
Oh,
विद्वान्.
you chanted it well.
Okay. Jivan Muktah, liberated one. Two, verily, Tadvidvan, endowed with self-knowledge. Purvopadhi Gunan, traits of the previous equipments. Tyajet, gives up. Satchidananda Rupatvat, because of his nature of existence, knowledge and bliss. Bhaved, will be. Brahmara Kitavat, like a wasp. जीवन मुक्तः तु तद्विद्वान् पूर्वोपाधि गुणान् त्यजेत् सच्चिदानन्दरूपत्वात् भवेत् भ्रमर कीटवत्. A liberated one endowed with self-knowledge gives up the traits of his previously explained equipments, upadhis, and because of his nature of Sat Chit Ananda, he verily becomes Brahman like the worm that grows to be a wasp. I repeat, a liberated one, endowed with self knowledge, gives up the traits of his previously explained equipments, upadhis, and because of his nature of Sat Chit Ananda, he verily becomes Brahman like the worm that grows to be a wasp. A liberated one, Jivan Mukta, is one who has realized the infinitude of his existence as the self, even while living in this world. He is one who, through his self realization, has become completely free from ignorance, avidya, even while he lives in his body, which, however, continues to exist as long as its experiences, prarabdha, last. I repeat, a liberated one, Jivan Mukta, is one who has realized the infinitude of his existence as the self, even while living in this world. He is one who, through his self realization, has become completely free from ignorance, avidya, even while he lives in his body, which, however, continues to exist as long as its experiences, prarabdha, last. He is the enlightened soul who has so well integrated his spiritual personality as to renounce totally the properties of the matter envelopments and the ego with his well directed upright physical, mental, and intellectual activities. He is one of the fortunate few who has died the mystic death, the death of his personal, limited individuality. Such a Jivan Mukta who has lived the life of a spiritual giant, unshakable in his inward experience, and who has freed himself from all the attractions around him, lives as the self in his own divine self. For him, there is no question of any bondage from the earlier described gross, subtle, and causal bodies, upadhis. He who is the knower of the Brahman becomes the Brahman which he was asserting all through his years of meditation, just as the worm becomes a wasp. The wasp builds a mud nest with no other outlet but a small hole in it and places a worm in it. Now and then, stinging the worm, the wasp sits at the door constantly. The helpless worm, weary with fear and pain, looks on constantly out where the terrible face of the wasp is there, threatening to sting it again. The worm, thus maintained in single pointed contemplation over the form and nature of the wasp, grows itself with wings and totally metamorphoses to become a wasp itself. Similarly, through his negation of matter and his assertions of the spirit, when the yogi for years meditates upon the divine nature of the self, the egocentric, limited individuality in him drops off its worm existence and become itself of the nature of the life principle, the self. So beautiful. I repeat once again the whole Jivan Mukta. Such a Jivan Mukta who has lived the life of a spiritual giant, unshakable in his inward experience, and who has freed himself from all the attractions around him, lives as the self in his own divine self. For him, there is no question of any bondage from the earlier described gross, subtle, and causal bodies, upadhis. He who is the knower of the Brahman becomes the Brahman which he was asserting all through his years of meditation, just as the worm becomes a wasp. The wasp builds a mud nest with no other outlet but a small hole in it and places a worm in it. Now and then, stinging the worm, the wasp sits at the door constantly. The helpless worm, weary with fear and pain, looks on constantly out where the terrible face of the wasp is there, threatening to sting it again. The worm, thus maintained in single pointed contemplation over the form and nature of the wasp, grows itself with wings and totally metamorphoses to become a wasp itself. Similarly, through his negation of matter and his assertions of the spirit, when the yogi for years meditates upon the divine nature of the self, the egocentric, limited individuality in him drops off its worm existence and become itself of the nature of the life principle, the self. So beautiful. So those Jivan Mukta, they leave their body even while they are living. They are free from all the body envelopments. And beautiful example of the worm and the wasp. When there is a single focused, single pointedness in our sadhana, satsang, seva, then you become that self. You are that Atman. That realization becomes very clear. Yeah, kindly share.
There is one word in Sanskrit for person who dies twice. That is death of his upadhis.
Videha Mukta.
Hmm. Thank you.
This example of a cocoon, the worm, and the wasp is such a, you could draw a parallel to our own life where we are limited, we've limited ourselves in this cocoon of existence of the samsara. But then if you have your you're latched on to the higher, and there is that vyavasayatmika buddhi and um, mm, the bhakti, which is ananya bhakti. When you have these two, you're yoked on to the higher, then there is no way you will not transform. You will not, there's no way you will not realize. So we have to fly, get those wings and fly. Like transform into the true self. Even that word transform is not really right, because you are that self, but that realization, removing all those shackles of the cocoon, of that limited existence that we weave around ourselves. We feel so helpless, limited, but actually we are nothing but the true nature of ourself is limitless, infinite.
Also, we can, like I was just thinking about that worm inside and comparing it to us. So it is such a helpless worm, weary with fear and pain. And it is like the situations which we feel, which we face in our life, relating to persons and situations, and those painful experiences, how they motivate us, or they draw us towards that enlightened master. And you see, for seeking that solace, it is how you move towards him, if, being in that state of helplessness. No, like you have that fear, you anxiety, pain, and you are not, you can't do anything. So how you shift your, like you shift your thought process, or you can say you have that mental shift inside you, and for that solace you turn towards him. And every time, like you find some solace, and then maybe you forget, and again when the situation, again some grief situation comes, again you are being reminded of that higher consciousness, and again you move towards him. It is like that, going up and down this thing. Now, every now and then these come, and then you face, and then you feel helpless, then again you seek solace, and it is then you consider yourself at a moment that all this is just Maya, and it is basically that all these things, they are happening for a cause, and it is the main motive of yours is to seek that higher consciousness. Yeah, this was how I was taking it. The metamorphosis which is happening in ourselves, just like that worm. Yeah.
Hariom, just a very stupid question I'm asking. If the worm doesn't move, does it still grow into butterfly by staying there inside the cocoon without any effort, or it has to make an effort?
Some movement must be there, no? I think some effort would be there. Maybe it would be more of mental, or because the space is so less. So it is, and of course that natural, the natural, what you can say, the life force, which God gives everyone. That natural force must be existing, because of that.
That if you read the life, I mean, not life cycle of this, how they develop, right? In the egg form, and then it makes this like, there is a larva, and then the pupa, and then the butterfly. So the pupa form is probably what we are
Dormant, I
calling
think.
is cocoon here, and
yeah, it is a dormant form there.
Yeah.
Not much of movement.
Yeah, same
Yeah.
thing, like anything you take, like egg or like a chicken, you don't know whether chicken is inside or not, right? It's probably like you can't even see it in the beginning, but then after that it start growing inside. Same thing with all the baby stuff. So it should be moving at some point. Otherwise, that's how the life progresses, right? Like the
Yeah,
self
and then
kind of
how
stuff.
it breaks,
Yeah.
for breaking that shell, it has to move. It has
Move,
to
exactly.
break off
Yeah.
that shell within which it is the covering part when it transforms into adult. Yeah.
So while it is in the cocoon, this worm is constantly looking outside at the moth which is ready to prick it and give it pain. So it is said, no, in the subsequent lines, constantly this worm is only seeing the image of that
The
moth,
wasp, right? Mm-hmm.
the
The
wasp.
mouth is still looking at the wasp, then that's how that single pointedly it's
So that is,
imagining that wasp, then it becomes like that.
yeah, so that is what he is implying here, that
Right. Yeah.
constant, our focus should be on Narayana.
Yeah.
Constant 24/7
Cons-
focus on Narayana. So then we get that courage to break free from that fear and pain, and we become the wasp. We become like the divine. So Jivan Mukta.
You know what? That actually in Gita, there's one sloka about that. Bhagavan says that you surrender to me, I will let the ego go, and then I'll take care of all the sins or whatever, and then he's the last one to let the ego go, right? You're right. Like, yeah, you have to be constant thinking about that Brahman all the time. Maybe that will help us to get there. Yes. And kind of finally that letting that ego go, then this one is that you'll realize the self. It's in there.
Yeah, because that final liberation, we can't do it ourselves.
Right.
We need the guru to uh, connect us or to help us cross this bridge. So that is why, that constant 24/7 attention on the guru or the divine. Only then
Right.
you will dissolve your mind. Otherwise, we are doing 50-50 here and there, and we get neither.
Where Dr. Savita said this correctly, because most of the time, if you look back ourselves, like, yeah, you kind of when you have tough times, you really wholeheartedly you pray and ask for His grace or whatever to remove the hurdles or obstacles, whatever you need to gain at that moment. But then when it goes away, that part, then you kind of relaxed, and that's a normal thing. But as we are progressing this path, that shouldn't be our thing. I mean, like, I know we have to reinforcing it, like you said, 24/7 in the back of your mind, like what Brahmara said, like tambura, like that kind of thing in your mind always. It is grace only, everything is happening. I'm not doing anything, I'm just an instrument. That's a type of uh, attitude we should have into it.
Constantly
Yeah,
remembering his name is it may be out of love also, no? The after out
true.
of
Yeah.
yeah.
We
So
can
it
keep
is
calling
out
him
of
all those
bhakti,
1,000
but
names that we have.
it is very rare that people out of love for God they take the name. It is usually just like that the worm.
Ramashi.
Yeah. So
you can say every time everything comes in your mind is, oh my God, like that only, right? Mm. Very nice. Dr. Brahmara is also helping. I saw that name coming here, Brahmara Kitavatu. So like that, she's telling us to move forward.
Yeah, the verse in
Eh,
Bhagavad Gita is Ananyas Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Paryupasate Tesham Nityabhiyuktanam Yogakshemam Vahamyaham. Ananyas Chintayanto Mam. Those that who constantly remember and think of me,
put in thinking,
I
yeah.
take care of their yoga and kshema.
Mm.
There are so
There's
many others
another,
that
yeah,
same
that
meaning.
one is, yeah, go ahead.
But I remembered this verse when you were talking about Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
And it is so Senna, you do my work, I will do yours.
Yeah, this one is about that thinking about him. There is another verse I can't remember on top of my head, but yeah, this is the one I think. The surrender to me, then
It's Sarva
I'll
Dharman
take care of it.
Parityajya Mamekam Sharanam Vraja Aham Tva Papebhyo Mokshayishyami Ma Shuchaha. This is in the 18th, one of the
Yeah.
penultimate shlokas in the 18th chapter.
Yeah, somewhere, yeah, that's what quoted in other place. I don't remember exactly where I read, but that's the one. He also, even he says it several places, not only in this part and that part, but there are several of them. But that specifically, he says in that part where he, the ego is he destroys or whatever, that he helps to do that, something like that. I'm not getting the words correctly, but anyway, thanks, Dr. Brahmara. That sloka is the one, maybe.
And we keep seeing Brahmara every day, so like a was.
I know. It's a nice name.
Yeah.
I really like that
Brahmara,
name.
you want to read or should I read?
I can read also. Yeah.
You can carry.
Sorry?
How much time we have now? We still have time.
Till this is 6:10, so 20, another 10 minutes.
Okay. Oh, Dr. Balaji left already.
Yeah, she
Sorry.
left. Brahmara, I didn't get what you were saying. Should I read or you want to read?
It's fine. You go ahead, Dr. Nirmalji. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh.
I don't know. You're sharing the thing?
Yeah, I'm sharing the.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
तीर्त्वा मोहार्णवं हत्वा रोगद्वेषादिराक्षसान् योगी शान्तिसमायुक्त आत्मा रामो विराजते. Sorry, you said something?
It was Raga Dvesha.
Yeah, did I say something else? Okay, I'll read it again.
It said Roga.
Okay. तीर्त्वा मोहार्णवं हत्वा रागद्वेषादिराक्षसान् योगी शान्तिसमायुक्त आत्मा रामो विराजते. Sorry. Tirtva, after crossing, Moharnavam, the ocean of delusion, Hatva, killing, Raga Dvesha Dirakshasan, the monsters of likes and dislikes. Yogi, the yogi, Shanti Samayuktaha, united with peace. Atma Ramaha, one who reveals within himself. Virajate, shines. Tirtva Moharnavam Hatva Ragadveshadirakshasan Yogi Shanti Samayuktaha Atma Ramaha Virajate. After crossing the ocean of delusion and killing the monsters of likes and dislikes, the yogi, who is united with peace, dwells in the glory of his own realized self as an Atmaram. After crossing the ocean of delusion, killing the monsters of likes and dislikes, the yogi, who is united with peace, dwells in the glory of his own realized self as an Atmaram. When the transformation is complete and the individualized egocentric jiva has rediscovered its pure nature as the eternal self, it crosses over all delusions, which represents the non apprehension of reality, the causal body. The mental impressions gathered in his individualized existence all through his entire past together constitutes the ocean of delusion or ignorance. Through the process of meditation, when the yogi reaches the effulgent experience of the self, he has no doubt crossed all non apprehensions of truth and therefore also all his misapprehensions about himself. When the transformation is complete and the individualized egocentric jiva has rediscovered its pure nature as the eternal self, it crosses over all delusions, which represent the non apprehension of reality, the causal body. The mental impressions gathered in his individualized existence all through his entire past together constitute the ocean of delusion or ignorance. Through the process of meditation, when the yogi reaches the effulgent experience of the self, he has no doubt crossed all non apprehensions of truth and therefore also his misapprehensions about himself. This is possible only when the devilish forces of likes and dislikes are destroyed and eliminated within the individual seeker's bosom. Having crossed over the ocean of delusion and having destroyed all the monsters, rakshasas, of the negative tendencies showed up by mental equipment in an individual self, the meditator enters the realm of the self to rediscover for himself the voiceless peace which he has but temporarily lost. Self is of the nature of peace, auspiciousness, beauty. Shantam, Shivam, Sundaram. And this experience of the self, the eternal, is permanent. And he thereafter ever lives in himself an unbroken experience of endless peace and bliss. He is the one who reveals in Atman, Atmaram. I'll read these two together. This is possible only when the devilish forces of the likes and dislikes are destroyed and eliminated within the individual's seeker's bosom. Having crossed over the ocean of delusion and having destroyed all the monsters.
Tamalji, do you mind reading from the beginning when the transformation, please?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, okay.
When the transformation is complete and the individualized egocentric jiva has rediscovered its pure nature as the eternal self, it crosses over all delusions, which represent the non apprehension of reality, the causal body. The mental impressions gathered in his individualized existence, all through his entire past, together constitutes the ocean of delusion or ignorance. Through the process of meditation, when the yogi reaches the effulgent experience of the self, he has no doubt crossed all non apprehensions of truth and therefore also all his misapprehensions about himself. This is possible only when the devilish forces of likes and dislikes are destroyed and eliminated within the individual's seeker's bosom. Having crossed over the ocean of delusion and having destroyed all the monsters, Rakshasas, of the negative tendencies, showed by the mental equipment in an individualized self, the meditator enters the realm of the self to rediscover for himself the voiceless peace which he has but temporarily lost. Self is of the nature of peace, auspiciousness, beauty, Shantam, Shivam, Sundaram. And this experience of the self, the eternal, is permanent, and he thereafter ever lives in himself an unbroken experience of endless peace and bliss. He is the one who reveals in Atman, Atmaram.
So it is like the blueprint he is the blueprint which a person develops for his life. He has no blueprint. All his delusions and all his because of there's no like and dislike, no delusions, nothing. So he hasn't made any impressions for the future life. So he's that the causal body doesn't exist, would not exist for him now. He has transcended that, and that is how he is reveling in that self, which is this what is the peace, auspiciousness, the beauty, shantam shivam sundaram, no? Which
But
is
he
the
will have the prarabdha, right? To go
no
through.
no first paragraph, you just first line, no, when the transformation is complete, he has already transformed, and then the individualized egocentric jiva has rediscovered its pure nature as eternal self. It crosses over all the delusions, which represents the non-apprehension of the reality, the causal body. He has already realized. Now a step ahead is that he will all that impressions which existed, now they are not. The next line says, no, the mental impressions gathered in his individualized existence all through his entire past together constitutes the ocean of delusion or ignorance. So through the process of meditation, when yogi reaches the effulgent experience of the self, he has no doubt crossed all the non-apprehensions of truth, and therefore also all his misapprehensions about himself. And this is how he destroys all his likes, dislikes.
I think the use of these big words, right, like delusion or the misapprehension, that they're pretty similar, right? Delusion is the misapprehension about yourself. And
About
then
us.
Right. And then
Uh,
non-apprehension about the truth is about he crossed, which is actually double negative, looks like. So he understood the truth, and then he crossed the non-apprehension. So it's basically all the non-understanding, all that he crossed. That is what that
his vision
word,
is
right?
clear now. He can see the past, present, and future. But I think maybe 2, 3 shlokas just before we read, the yogi or the jivatma who has been realized, he might have to go through the prarabdha karma where he has taken birth for. I think that he has to live through.
That he has to go.
Yeah.
That is true.
That he has
Yeah.
to go through.
But he
yes.
will not create any more karmas because he is not the doer over there. That's why he may not create any more karma, but the birth
Even
which
if
he
he
has taken,
does, that is taken
yeah,
agama karma is taken away differently, for these people. Sorry.
but here it
He read
says,
it.
and
It is a
one more
step
thing.
ahead. It is a step ahead after he has completed all his prarabdha. When the transformation is complete, he has lived all his prarabdha now. Nothing to complete, and he will not develop more. No more
Uh,
sanchit, no
yeah.
more.
Then will he be in his body if he has
Of course, he
completed
will
his
be.
prarabdha?
Of course, he will be after completing his this prarabdha karma. After that realization, and when that happens, the transformation happens, then he will not. That realization happens, then he would not go into likes, dislikes, making new karmas. That realization happened. No. So how would he go back then again? He will go further, no?
Correct.
He had realized that self, that eternal self, he has realized. So he would not go into making the prarabdha sanchit any karma. This is what this is saying, no? When the transformation is complete and that the individualized egocentric jiva has rediscovered its pure nature as eternal self.
What does
When
Maya
he's still in
Panchakam
the
says
body,
in first stanza
you're
when the
talking about
beginning?
the
Yeah, he's
individual
still in the body.
body.
He's still in the body, but he has lived all, whatever he had to. Then he revels in that Atman, that pure consciousness. Maybe when we'll read ahead.
I have one more thing. Like when he has realized Jivan Mukta, uh, he is still in this world. Then how does he think? What kind of instruments he uses to think and act in this world? Or does he use the intellect, knowing that what it is, or is it just the just things
He
happen with
uses
him, or
no,
it
no.
is just the intuition part takes over?
We read initially, in this previous paragraph, the previous verse, we
Hmm.
read somewhere, there's written, he is the enlightened soul who has so well integrated his spiritual personality as to renounce totally the properties of the matter envelopments and the ego. So he has already worked upon all the envelopments are these gross and subtle bodies, and the ego, that is the mind also, no, the mind and the ego with his well directed, upright
Okay.
physical, mental, and intellectual activities. So, with the help of his physical, mental, and intellectual activities, he worked upon himself. After working and realizing, and like it is that when you know, then you will make an effort at all levels, no, the physical, mental, and intellectual. So these are all helping him to get out of this samsara, realizing what is the truth. And that enlightenment, for achieving that enlightenment, he He needs this body-mind complex. So with the help of that only he is able to. So he lives. It is not that he dies. He lives. Jivan Mukta always lives the life of a, he lives the life of a spiritual giant, unshakable.
If you
word.
want example of Jivan Mukta, I mean, there are a lot of saints, like you have Ramana Maharishi or Ramakrishna, Swami Bhagavan Ramakrishna, you can take their lives to see, those were Jivan Muktas and how they lived in that body, and, they went through the regular problems with that body, but then it doesn't affect them because they're like, like they get over that, they treat like equanimous, or that they don't have that likes and dislikes and all that stuff. They are
And
over
they didn't
those
develop
things.
that blueprint for the next life also, no? They didn't develop anything. And that is why we were enlightened.
Yeah.
It never took Janma further unless they choose,
We'll continue tomorrow. We'll stop here. And we can play the Maya Panchakam today because we don't have much time. Om Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Tat Sat Shri Krishna Arpanamastu.
निरुपमनित्यनिरंशकेऽप्यखण्डे मयि चिति सर्वविकल्पनादिशून्ये घटयति जगदीश जीवभेदम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया श्रुतिशतनिगमान्तशोधकानपि अहह धनादिनिदर्शनेन सद्यः कलुषयति चतुष्पदाद्यभिन्ना न घटितघटना पडीयसी माया सुखचिदखण्डविबोधमद्वितीयम् वियदनलादिविनिर्मित्ते नियोज्य भ्रमयति भवसागरे नितान्तम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया अपगतगुणवर्णजातिभेदे सुखचितिविप्रविडार्यहङ्कृतिं च स्फुटयति सुतदारकेहमोहम् त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया विधिहरिहरविभेदमप्यखण्डे बत विरचय्य बुधानपि प्रकामम् भ्रमयति हरिहरविभेदभावान् घटितघटना पटीयसी माया त्वघटितघटना पटीयसी माया